Here we go.
Jackie.
You are co-host.
Jerry. That big one. Yeah, this is going to be a technology day. Okay. No, that's not big enough. But you can't read it. I apologize. I can read the physics. But this happened to do. So the four immeasurables are all about immeasurable minds. So it's up on the screen. You look on page 34. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be encycled in the happiness of the May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment to friends and hatred for enemies. Refuge prayer. I go for by the merits I create all sentient beings. I go for refuge and Dharma light, the Buddha and Dharma to space. By the merits I create may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge and Dharma light, to the Buddha and others. By the merits I create even to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. So have your mind. Have you checked? Period. Period. Curiosity is always good.
Busy.
Busy. Okay, let's start. Okay, so what are some techniques to calm the mind? Focus on the breath. Sometimes it just takes counting like 21 in breaths, 21 out breaths, and then you'll realize you kind of let go of thinking about the past or the future, you know, or what you're wearing, or whatever, you know, is occupying your mind. What's another one? Walking. Walking. Excellent. But walking only if you're focused. You know, I mean, this is the key. So if you're not actually focused on your breath, it's not going to calm your mind. If you're not focused on walking, or if you haven't, you know, like just, you know, like not. Sometimes you can walk if you're actually focused on your steps. Other times you can walk and you just focus on what you see. You know, so it's like Thich Nhat Hanh would say, you know, you could pretend your foot is like a camera, and every time the foot goes down, it's so that's one method, you know. In the Japanese tradition, they usually do a very, 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 very slow walk where you're actually, you know, you're holding your foot in the air, and then you put it down, and you lift the other foot. So it's very, very slow. That's not the same, you know, so they're different techniques. And don't do that out in public. Because then they'll think all Buddhists are insane. So that was taking a advice. Don't look around looking funny. Anyway, any other techniques? Yes. So you can choose to focus on teaching, a mantra, whatever it is that takes you away from all the conversations you're having in your head, the worries, the stories you live in, and just, bring it down to one point. So it's helpful. And sometimes, like if you're, for me, because I'm a nun, but for me, picking up a Dharma book, the fastest way for me to stop my words. It's like, on my word back. So we all have to find our ways. But before meditation or before listening to a teaching, before, when you want to be able to focus on what you're actually doing now, it's helpful to have something to help bring your attention, into the now. Whether it's following your breathing or just reflecting on why your intention, So that's why we seem to set an intention at the beginning of anything we do, is to give us something to direct our mind. And intention in Buddhism, they call a mental factor intention, and that is the mental factor that moves the mind, which directs the mind towards an object. So when we say set an intention, set a motivation, that's what we're talking about, So for a class, you might think, okay, if you're curious, based on whatever reason you're here, or if you just want a Dharma booster shot, or you just, whatever it is that you need, you want to say, well, I want to try to learn something that fits my need, and you want to listen. You want to listen with an open mind, that kind of thing. So you set that intention, and then it's always helpful to combine it with the wish that it not just benefits yourself, but that it ripples out to benefit others. Are there female Buddhists? Of course. Anybody can make it. No pictures. There's Tara sleeping Buddha. Right there. There's Tara here. In green Tara, white Tara and green Tara. They're female. But yeah, the Tibetans aren't. I mean, it's a patriarchy like everything else, So Tara, right? The Buddha didn't say anything about women not being able to become enlightened. So, there are a lot of things that seem to imply it's better to be, in Buddhist teachings. I'm Buddhist, that it's better to be born a male. And that has a lot to do with safety. It's safer for them to go off in the forest and be alone. It's safe, and why? Because they're male. Yeah. So, so it's like I have a whole bunch of apps and all of that. So we don't have to worry. We'll get there. So it has nothing to do with our ability to become one. It has to do with the practicalities of living in a world with a bunch of unlikely people. Some sardines. So that's my 2 cents. Off that soapbox on Will. So, okay. So equanimity has been brought up a lot lately. We had one student bring up how helpful it has been with dealing with chronic pain. So, according to the teaching, we have a mental factor that arises with every single moment of mind that it's translated as the word feeling. Doesn't mean the same thing as our word in English for feeling. It means you have an experience of pleasant or unpleasant or neutral. Okay. And our response to those 3 states is how we can help train our mind to not get disturbed by whatever is happening. But our habituatedness to whatever is unpleasant is to try to get away from it, to stop it. Our habituated response to things we find pleasant is to chase after more of it. And what happens is we start to imbue the objects that we're attracted to or averse to with qualities they don't have. We exaggerate the goodness or the negativeness of those objects. We think that unpleasant and pleasant come from that object instead of coming from our own minds. And this is part of our behavior. What the Buddha said is that pleasant and unpleasant and neutral come from karma. It comes from our past act. So we create the cause, have done by the healing, and something to lifetime. They get too hard for So, but the point is that it is how we respond to that experience that determines like the next moment and the next moment, and it drives the mind. And our problem is that because we're so, did you ever feel like you're on a roller coaster? That is because we're reacting to that attraction or aversion, or boredom. It's too neutral. It's like over. So then the phones come out, Instagram comes out, or whatever. I'm not up to date. So we want to understand that we don't want to use our habitual reactions. That is, and we may choose to do something differently because we'll suffer less. We'll be irritated less. We won't be infatuated with stuff. So it's a way to reduce our craving to be closer to what we like and our craving to be separated from what we don't like. Because craving, when we really look at it, is a suffering state. No, it is not pleasant. It means we want something we don't have. But we have something we don't want. So equanimity, me and sound. Equanimity is an ability to have to not be reactive to that feeling. Instead, use your intelligence, your wisdom, or whatever to assess how you want to respond, as opposed to just, I don't like that lift, That's how we get on that roller coaster. So, how do we do that? Well, one thing we can think about, reflect on, is how often do we have unpleasant moments? Where we're just kind of like, I think do something, feel something else. Think about your days and think about how often, you're kind of annoyed, or you're kind of frowning, or you're kind of just really this again, that kind of thing. That's a clue that reactive to that thing. How many times a day do you think about, I wish I could go get a cup of coffee. I could go get, chocolate donut. I could go get, I don't know, something healthy even. I know some people have those. Not big on it, but this noticing how many moments of basically desire you have is a sign that you're just being reactive. That, and that we're not in control when we're doing it. You know, we're more like children. You know, we'll put something in their mouth and go, oh. Now we don't do that because we've been taught social graces, but we think that. You know, oh, that's even so nice. Blah, blah, blah. And that increases suffering. Because we're going to encounter unpleasant often. Just the nature of things. Things are not perfect. Things don't work right. Hence, the technology is really just the bane of our existence. You know, is that a mean? Is it what is bane?
Almost like a curse, I guess, or something bad happening.
Okay. I love it when I use it sort of correctly.
That's it.
So,
The essence.
Oh, the essence. Well,
Yeah.
anyway. So training ourselves to just dealing with what is, what any event is, whether it's a mental event or something happening in our world, you know, and responding according to what we think is an appropriate way to respond. Once we study that, so you know, can help us not be dragged around by desire. Our resistance to what is a big source of ourself. That idea that did this really have to happen today? You know, why? All those, yeah.
I don't want to interrupt you, but I was just thinking about the serenity prayer.
Yeah, it's very much like that. In fact, in Buddhism, we have Shantideva, an 8th century philosopher, who said, you know, if there's a problem and you can't fix it, why worry? If there's a problem and you can fix it, why worry? This, yeah, no, you're frowning. You're muted still.
Okay, thanks. Can you please check the sound because it's good, but it's not that good.
Okay. You might need to increase the volume on that, on the TV or the
microphone. It's just that it's something that's, you know what, if you switch
doesn't have an increase
for the speaker, not for the, if you unmute yourself and I mute the TV, it'll use your PC for the microphone. But I'll have to make sure to mute this so we'll get an echo. See if you could turn.
Okay. Now I can come do that.
It's going to echo because it's echoing into your listeners.
I know.
But
I still think there's a volume control.
let me try. You got to mute yourself.
I know. I'm trying to find that part. Okay.
We probably can.
I'm on.
I think because it's picking up your voice on that computer and not.
This is what I'm doing.
Let me try.
I'm not going to worry about it. Okay. Well, swing. All right. So this is an example of an opportunity to practice equanimity, as opposed to my reactive thing of being impatient. That's my not working like I want to, so I'll get impatient. Who suffers?
You do.
I do. Yeah, I may try to make y'all suffer too. Okay, is that working now?
It seems like it is.
Is it better?
Somewhat better, she's indicating.
Maybe you need to increase your speaker on your headphones.
No, actually, it's letting me fix it.
Oh, good.
Yeah, geez.
That's-
Wow, it's like magic.
Yeah, no, okay.
Okay, that's it. We don't have to talk about that anymore.
I did have a question.
Okay.
Do enlightened beings get experience feeling good?
You should be able to answer that question.
I should be.
Yes, you should. So think about it. Come back to me later. Think about it. You have all the information from the mind class. You have all the information you need for that.
But I know they wouldn't react to it.
Yeah, because they have perfect equanimity.
They have perfect equanimity.
We're not going to discuss this because you need to look that up.
Okay.
Back.
Yes,
When the monks at the peaceful walk
yes.
to Washington, I read in Facebook, they were talking about why did the teacher didn't react
Yeah, I heard that.
when the monk arrived and embraced and it was crying and the monk
Yeah.
was in perfect harmony.
Yeah.
So he gave a little explanation of
Yes,
is
you have a
letting
point.
the other person
Yeah.
express himself, not showing attachment, not showing
Right.
emotion.
Because people also cursed at them, threw things at them. So if you don't want to get on a roller coaster, you just don't worry about it. You don't judge the reaction of others, and you don't judge yourself based on the reactions of others. You do what you have learned is the method for a peaceful mind. Part of that is equanimity. A huge part of it is equanimity. But it's those two pieces that are so important. It is not just that you're not judging others, but you have that inner confidence that knows that I don't have to let their actions say anything about me. Because that's giving other people's judgments of you all the power. And they may be wrong. We need to do, when people have a reaction to us, we need to be able to use our inner wisdom to go, is that true? Do I need to work on that? And you could also go, it's not true. I'm not worried, But you don't have to prove it to anybody. You don't have to judge someone else and go, you're wrong. Because then you probably have fallen into exactly what they were saying. So, but this equanimity, this peace, because this is this confidence that a peaceful mind, a loving mind comes from within. It doesn't come from others. It's our response. It's not dependent on others. And that takes training. So it's not like they're not training. It's not like they're just there. I don't react. I don't feel anything. I don't get hurt, da, 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 da. It's that they know that a reactive mind is not going to lead them to peace. And this is this whole idea of like peace walks. I remember, is that you need to start with peace within. That peace begins with me, So it's this understanding that we tend to be dragged around throughout our lives by other people and how we react to other people or objects like computers. you know, so, and we don't have to be. We think we have to be. But the more we observe our mind, the more we can settle the mind down, the more that we notice there are actually pauses between thoughts, the more that we can choose in that pause to respond differently, even if our habituated state arises, like impatience or anger or irritation or hurt or whatever it is. If you allow yourself space, you'll see that ceases. And you can choose your response based on how you would like to respond, not how that disturbing emotion is affecting you. Yep.
So I think there are two sides to that. One is how I'm choosing to respond if I'm in control enough. And the other one is what your emotion is. So
That's mine.
Oh,
That's mine. Emotion is a mind. They don't even use that term in Buddhism. It's just all mind, whether it's love, compassion, anger, reasoning, wisdom. All of those are states of mind. Some are disturbing states of mind. Some are not. We want to cultivate those that are not, like love and compassion and patience and generosity, kindness. We do not want to feed minds of anger, irritation, self-loathing, pride, arrogance, all that kind of stuff. So at this moment, until we've worked with our mind, we don't generally have control with what arises. But if we start to pay attention to our mind, we can see we don't have to follow that. So we realize, and this is why I talk a lot about it, it's important to start noticing the clues in your body. I'm getting tense. I'm getting a little off. I'm not so comfortable. Because that's when you go, I'm not reliable in this moment. So I need to slow down, watch my speech, or say nothing at all, watch rolling the eyes, that kind of stuff.
Is that why the monk was emphasizing not multitasking so
Yep.
much?
Yep.
He kept bringing that up a lot.
Yep. I listened to him too.
Okay.
So he's in a different tradition, but most of a lot of the stuff is exactly the same. So
Thank you.
I'm fortunate not to be in a tradition where you have to walk barefoot in the snow. I wouldn't last long. So, okay. But yes, that is why you want to slow down. That is why you want to, because, even research shows multitasking doesn't work. What we need to remember is if you can't do one thing at a time well, why would you think you can do two things at a time well?
Like driving and texting.
So, yep.
When I want to think about multitasking, I just look at my thumb that I caught in my drawer when I was trying to do something else at the same time. It's a great reminder.
I wish we had videos of people driving, where you show the lanes so people could see how, I'm sorry, but you really are weaving. You may think you've got control of texting and driving, but you don't. It's just, this is our not accepting reality for what it is. Not accepting reflexes change over time, not accepting the fact that you really can't look at your phone and look at the keyboard at the same time as paying attention to the road. Anyway, there's that rolling of the eyes there. But but all of this is really about taking responsibility for how we respond. That it's nobody else's responsibility to choose how you respond. You get to do that. What we tend to do is react. And those reactions are based on a long habit of thinking it's appropriate to be impatient or angry or arrogant or whatever we think, it suits the situation. What we don't realize is we're suffering when we do that. That it doesn't give us power, doesn't make us in charge. It doesn't protect us. We get harmed whether we're angry or not. We get hurt. That's not avoiding what we're averse to and just catering to what we like does not make us stronger. It makes us, it increases the likelihood of our disappointment. But if we know we can handle it, whatever arises, that we're not going to embarrass ourselves in public, that we can, okay, whatever it is, I'll deal with it. Now, you might not be able to deal with it well, This isn't about perfection. It's about understanding that if someone's cursing at you, so it's that old, just like our parents told us, what is it? Sticks and stones may break my head. So we need to be able to go within and see all the ways our adult habits reflect an awful lot of our child habits. Where, when we don't get what we want, we get mad or we get impatient. And you have to ask yourself, is that working for you? We have to ask ourselves if it's compassionate to always, placate someone else. So if you have an issue with speaking up, we need to use our inner wisdom and we need to develop our inner wisdom. That's why you study the Dharma. You try to learn about the mind. You try to understand that we've trained our mind. According to the Buddha, we've trained it for eons, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. So changing habits is not the easiest thing to do. You have to be pretty forceful with, your determination to keep trying and try again and try again and try again, But we can do it because we've all learned new things in this lifetime. We've all developed new habits. We have that skill, So what we have to try to let go of is this idea, I can't change my mind. I'm just an impatient person, How many minutes of your life have you been an impatient person? You think it's all of them? No, we change moment to moment. We're not any one thing, one state of mind, any of that. We're a series of mental moments, and a series of physical moments. And our actions of body, speech, and mind, we can direct them. But we have to be paying attention to how we're directing them now, because we are already directing them. Just because something arises right away, just like it's a reflex, doesn't mean your mind wasn't thinking about it. Our mind's very, very fast. According to the teachings, you have 65 thoughts in a finger snap. So we don't have to worry about keeping up, because what do you use to observe your mind?
Your mind.
Your mind. It's just as fast. What isn't is your focus. That's what you have to work on, is focusing on observing your mind. It's just like you don't meditate when you're in your car driving. You have to take other times to be observant, because there are times when you just need to focus on your mind. You revisit incidents in your life and you kind of think about, well, what was going on? How was I feeling? What was said? What did I say? Do all this stuff to kind of see what was going on in your mind. You know, and then think about, okay, could I have responded differently? What if I had responded differently? How would that look? What do you not want to do when you do that?
Regret?
No, you can regret.
You don't want to shame yourself.
Yeah, you don't want to do any of those things.
Beat yourself up.
That's one thing. But you also don't want to have an expectation of a different outcome. Okay?
If you
Once
do it
it's
the
already-
same way, right?
Huh?
If you do it the same way, right?
Nope. Even if you do it a different way,
Got it.
you know, all what you want to observe is how you feel inside. You cannot control if anybody reacts to you differently. You can't control the outcome of similar incidents, conversations, meetings, blah, blah, blah. You can't control that. All you can control is your part. Our grasping at an outcome is another way to suffer because we're not in control of outcomes. We're in control of our part. Now we know that, like, well, you know, if you don't try to climb a mountain, you can't, you know, you're not going to climb the mountain. I mean, those kind of outcomes we have. But if you go out on an expedition to climb a mountain, doesn't mean you'll succeed. You could have everything in your favor. You've done all the training. You're very fit. You have no trouble with lack of oxygen as you get to higher and higher elevations. You know, all the stuff that goes into that. Doesn't mean you'll succeed. The weather can get in the way. You can fall. You know, all sorts of things happen. Everything can be going well, and you still can't quite make it. What was it? There was one guy who got, like, within 12 minutes of the peak of Mount Everest and had to stop because he didn't have enough oxygen. So, you know, I mean, so we can't control outcomes, but we can take care of our part. You know, if we want a smooth meeting, all we can take care of is our part, that we're not agitating things. Doesn't mean we're not speaking up. Other people might get agitated, but we can watch how we speak, how we're thinking, you know, and how we're, you know, emoting. Is that the right word? You know, so but the first thing you just have to start noticing when you're on edge. There are certain times that we all have a certain sense of it. Like some people know that they really have to make sure they eat. That after a certain point, they're sort of wired if they haven't eaten. And that's a really good condition to get angry or impatient or whatever your thing is. You know, if you don't have enough sleep, you want to be gentle with yourself on days where you didn't have enough sleep. You don't demand a whole lot out of yourself because you may not be able to rise to that occasion. So you just do what you can do, you know. So we have to respect where we are, what our skills are, you know, and not hold ourselves to some standard of perfection. Because we're not Buddhists. No. And all those things crush us. You know, self-loathing crushes us. You're not doing anybody any favors. And it's never true. It's just like when you're judging someone else, just like when you exaggerate the negative qualities of something you're averse to or a person you find difficult. All you're seeing in that moment is, you know, an exaggerated negative view of yourself, others. It's wrong. And when it comes up, you have to go, well, this isn't a reliable mind. I don't have to trust this. You know, do whatever you can to not feed it. Not come up with every example you can of every mistake you've ever made. Instead, you want to come up with things that you do well. You know, we need to understand that if we want to be able to respond to things in a way that we're satisfied with, we have to have inner confidence. You know, we have to feel like we're worth something. According to the Buddha, the fact we exist, you know, we all living beings have Buddha potential. That's not bad. Because we all have the capacity for love and compassion and kindness and patience and generosity. We all have beings that we act that way with, you know. So it's not that we don't do that. We do that. And we don't notice. So we want to notice those things too. We don't just want to look for, you know, how we act when we have disturbing emotions arise in our mind. We also want to look for how we act when we're offering help to someone or we're trying to benefit someone, or that we just, you know, even when it's just watching the news and you have real compassion for what the story is going, or that you wish you could, oh yeah, I can give some money to that, you know. But it takes training to become consistent so that you can walk, 2,300 miles or something, you know, and, you know, have your feet falling apart, you know, and not scream when the people are tending to your feet. Because, you know, that's what they do at night is someone, you know, if they, you know, they come and help with their feet, bandage their feet, you know. And of course, they continue to walk even after one of the monks got hit. And that's not really an insane thing to do. You know, we have to watch how our minds react. Oh, that seems kind of, you know, you left him in the hospital and fend for himself, which of course is not what happened. But, you know, if you do those things, you know, actions like that for praise, for fame, or for, you know, whatever, you know, those are disturbing motivations. So it will not work out well for your inner peace, because you get more and more dependent on those things. And then you have to have more and more of that. And then you're crushed when, you know, people don't notice what you're doing. If you do it as a practice, because they were clearly practicing with their minds, then they're strengthening their good qualities. They're strengthening their ability for tolerance. You know, patience in Buddhism is defined as the, you know, the ability to accept the suffering that arises in the mind without any wish to retaliate. It's not a state where you're fine, and so you're just patient. No, you're suffering. Suffering's arising in the mind, and you choose not to act from that place. Yes.
Once you understand that you're suffering and processing and acceptance and being patient, what is the next level to deal with it?
What's the next level to deal with that? Eventually, if you do that often enough, you won't suffer as much. You won't have suffering arising in your mind because you will not be hurt, or, I mean, physically you can be hurt, but you don't have to let it, you know, it just doesn't affect you anymore, emotionally, you could say. So it's a matter of practice, because the more and more we can tolerate whatever suffering arises in the mind, the less we'll have suffering arise in the mind. That seems contradictory, but it's that recognition, oh, this doesn't kill me.
Is it the result of building immunity towards that feeling?
Is holiness likes to use, you know, we need to develop emotional immunity or, like we need a vaccine. Yeah, in a way, it is like that. But it comes from that experience that patience doesn't hurt you. That you in fact might find that patience makes things better. So there's a benefit to the patience. And the more we practice with little stuff, the more we can handle big stuff. So this is why sometimes, when you're all caught up in some drama of your own, and then you turn on the news and see there's been some big catastrophe, suddenly you forget all about your problem because there are people out there suffering from, really struggling with a much bigger deal. So, so if we practice with the little stuff and not get all bent out of shape from this and that, then we can increase our ability to tolerate bigger and bigger things. Because the truth, when my mother died, I was 27. And so she was really the first person in my life, that was really important in my life that died. And it hurt so much. I felt like someone was reaching into my chest and pulling my heart out. And then I realized I'm going to survive this. I couldn't believe you survived this, but you do. So that's an important thing to remember. So you can either get caught in that pain and never let go of it, or you can just accept the fact that you're going to keep going. And it takes a long time to do it well. But, it doesn't kill us. So, being patient doesn't mean that you don't get out of harm's way. And it also doesn't mean that you try to get in harm's way so you can practice patience. So it's about understanding that our inner response to what's happening matters in terms of our ability to have a peaceful state of mind. To not be scared, not to be, confused, all those kind of things. Anxious. Does that help at all? Does that make sense? So it's really not about, I think that, I do think that the more you practice it and the more you are in, things like you walk 2,300 miles, and your feet hurt, and you're getting frostbite on your fingertips and, all that kind of stuff, that day-to-day practice and being completely, willing to just, that's okay. I'm going to keep going. Now, they didn't expect the guy with no leg to keep going. Right. Because this isn't insanity. I'm sorry, yep.
Is that where wise self-compassion comes into play?
Wise self-compassion, yes. Yes, we always need wisdom with compassion. And, so for ourselves, it's like when we, compassion is the wish that you don't suffer, you suffer less, all that stuff. If then we say, well, so I should be able to eat whatever I want because I suffer when I can't have my desserts, well, that's not wise compassion if you have a problem with sugar, So it's just, it's this recognition. We're not Buddhas. We have limits and we have to respect those limits. We don't have to hate ourselves for those limits. And we can also still wish we were free of the suffering from those limits. And the same for everybody else. We can't first of all, we can't fix other people. We can't fix all situations. We're not always of help because we don't have the skills that cover every possibility of what can happen. So we have to accept that that's not a problem. It's just reality. Yeah.
If we practice
patience enough, is there something in the brain that actually gets rewired
Well, maybe the mind definitely,
in
the mind and brain are not the
Right,
same
in the mind?
in Buddhism. So, but the mind certainly rewires the brain. I mean, you see that the people who practice, even what is it like? I think it's maybe 2 weeks, maybe 8 weeks of practicing compassion meditation every day. They change their what gets active in their brain. Monks who've been doing it their whole lives have a much more active brain area for compassion. Yeah.
This subject is being highly talked about right now in the psychiatric and psychological fields. How the mind can literally rewire the brain, and it's been they've come up with these wonderful alternatives for people who really suffer with mental illness. So
yes,
it's an interesting and very topical topic.
Yeah. So neuroscience has discovered all sorts of things about that interaction. They can't pin down consciousness. You know, I mean, a lot of scientists think it's just physical, but they certainly can't locate it just in the brain. You know, and of course the Tibetans point to their heart when they say mind.
Can you please define compassion?
Compassion in this context is the wish that someone is free from suffering. Whether it's
Wish
yourself
from somebody else.
or yourself.
Okay.
Self-compassion would be for yourself. And it's important when, like, we have some event happen and we're sad about it or hurt by it or whatever. You know, like even if it's just like, oh, I didn't get into the college I wanted to, you know, to respect that you're suffering.
And what actions can we take to improve on compassion?
To do what?
Improve, to be better at the compassion.
At the compassion, you have to do it often. You know, so like it's really important that every time you feel like a slap in the face, that you take a moment to go, wow, you know, I'm suffering, you know, just in your mind, and you comfort yourself, you know, just say like, okay, you know. But one thing that helps me is that when those things like with my mom dying, was this, there are millions of people going through this every day, you know, and it's like, oh my goodness, you know, I'm not the only one. And isn't it amazing that we keep going? You know, this is the truth of suffering, according to the Buddha. You know, it's just like this is how it is. And we want to try to quit adding to our suffering by not respecting the fact that there's the truth of suffering. We suffer, others suffer. We're not different that way. You know, we have different sources of suffering, you know, but we all suffer and we all don't like it. And we don't know how, you know, the Buddha said our problem is we keep chasing things that the only result's going to be suffering, like feeding our craving. Feeding your craving, it just makes your craving bigger, you know. What we don't understand is that we need to quit chasing what we want. We need to quit running away from what we don't want and develop our understanding about our interconnection and our interdependence and cherish others, you know. So, and that, you know, this self-cherishing isn't a bad thing. It's that we don't want to cherish ourselves above others. And we need to keep working on the fact that we're all the same. We all want happiness. We all don't want to suffer. And most of us don't know what in the world we're doing. So we need to learn how. And that takes observation of what's going on in the mind. You know, recognizing when you're doing something for others. Do you feel better? Do you sleep better that night? You know, even though you didn't want to do it, you didn't want to go, but you showed up, you know, and then you did it. And then you get home and you think, oh, glad I did that, you know. We need to notice these things, you know, and that doesn't mean just helping someone else move. if you have a truck, you know, all of you with big SUVs or trucks. But it also includes things like giving your undivided attention to your children, you know, to really just have a period of time where you're just there for them, you know, doing that for your partner. You know, it's this understanding that we are interconnected and we need each other for our happiness. We need each other for everything, you know? So recognizing the fact that there's not 1 hour that we go through that we haven't been depending on countless strangers. You know, whether it's because, you know, the lights are still on, air conditioning's still on, you know, we've got clothing, you know, I don't make these, you know, all that kind of stuff, the food that we eat, you know, the water that we drink, all of this is dependent on countless people we don't know. You know, and this is part of our pleasures, part of our disappointments, you know. So somebody got a hand up? Yes.
I've had a long-standing pattern of thinking that I thought was just me, like a very self-deprecating. Like,
Yeah.
if there's anyone who's going to shoot me down, it's me. Like, I see it first, and
I know you're the best at
I'm
it.
going to tell you before you can even say it. You know?
Right.
If it just in case you notice.
That's why it's a form of pride.
But when I realized form of pride.
Yeah, it's this pride of being the worst.
Oh, in a negative way.
Yeah, it's a negative way.
I give this up. What I realized this week, like only just this week, here I am, I'm visiting. So New York is having really, really severe weather, as in other places, but I'm in the pool and it's beautiful and it's sunny. Like, what could be better? And I realized that my brain constantly will go to what isn't going right. Or what isn't okay, or what I have to work on, or something that makes me unhappy or sad or guilty.
But that's a habit.
It is such a habit, but I honestly, like, I never saw it before.
Yeah, well, you have to look. You have to know that it might be worth looking for, and then you have to look. I mean, like when you first start meditating, as everybody, you know, most people experience like, oh my God, my mind's all over the place. You know, you don't think that that's the case until you shut up and look. Then you realize, oh, it's all over the place. Same thing. That's why we have to look. You know, you may not realize you have the habit of always looking for what's not working, of always being, you know, picking it out, you know, oh, look who's here, you know, too bad, you know. And then other people don't have that habit. They have the habit of always seeing what's wonderful. And we might have a touch of envy for them. And so we usually call them a Pollyanna, and we don't believe them because we'd rather insult them than think that maybe I should emulate that. So it's so fascinating to me that we have an insult made out of someone who's happy. So it's great news that you know that.
And now what?
You just catch yourself. You know, you notice, you know, you kind of, oh, there I go again. Okay, I'm not going to follow that thought. And then you try to purposely go, let me see what's going right. And you just have to practice it. You know, and it's because it will feel better, you'll want to do more of it. And if you rejoice about it every time you do it, that's the old positive reinforcement. You know, and it's, some of us feel guilty about feeling good. And we want to work on that because that doesn't actually help anybody. We don't like to be around people who, you know, feel terrible about themselves and, you know, just, you know, think that suffering is the height of, I don't know, caring for others. You know, and that's a mistake. It's not true. But we learn it, and some of us are born with it. We brought it with us from a past life. But it's a habit of chasing suffering and thinking that something good is going to come out of it, and it's not true. We have to just be able to be honest, and this, you want to have an honest self-assessment. So, and sometimes we need our friends to help us with that, and so we have this, blah, 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 and they go, I don't think that's true. No, because we exaggerate. This is what aversion is. Self-loathing is aversion. Self-deprecation is an aversion. And we are exaggerating the negative qualities of ourselves. So it's a lie. And we want to, develop some confidence in that. And no, you're not perfect. Not everybody will like you. Even if you're on your best behavior, not everybody will like you. That's so what? That's really a so what? Oh.
I get tripped up a little bit on the word aversion. So when you say it's an aversion, it could be like it's an aversion to being happy, or it's an aversion to like could you?
Well, aversion is wanting to get away from some state that we don't like.
But the mind's so tricky. It's like in her case, if I'm happy, I might be guilty because I'm in Florida and everybody else is suffering.
But that's a story you've just made up.
Right.
But
Right.
right.
But like,
Yeah, but that's a story you've just made up.
Story, right?
It's a story. And we need to catch ourselves in our stories going, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, you just have to have a little conversation with yourself and say, that doesn't make any sense at all. I would like them all to be down here enjoying this. It's not that I, want to make sure to keep you all out. Sorry, don't join me. That's not what our mind is. We'd love for them to all be there. And in fact, we could have that prayer. Oh, I wish you all are having, not having this kind of weather in the future. This is, but of course, we can't control that. This is the nature of suffering. So you rejoice that you created the cause to not be there. You don't have to have pride about it. It's just, oh, this is one of those benefits of having done positive things in the past. So
Just wait 6 months.
wait 3 days. Because we get bored very quickly. We want change. Oh, that was nice, but let's move on now. So
Looks like it's cold where Nana is.
I would think so. I know it's February in Florida, but it's also February in Portugal, and it's cold.
I heard, actually, I read a little while ago that on the West, part of the tradition, for lack of a better word, is the focus on guilt. We tend to feel guilty for this and this.
Yep.
And that in the East, it is shame. So
Well, it all depends on jargon, and this is the problem. In Buddhism, shame in Tibetan system is the willingness to do positive actions because you'd be ashamed of yourself if you didn't. The word embarrassment is used that you do positive actions because you'd be embarrassed in front of others. You would embarrass your teachers or your parents if you didn't. So it depends on jargon. It's very important. We try to make a distinction in the teachings about guilt and regret. We should regret our negative actions and when we harm somebody else. But that regret says, I take responsibility for having done harm, and I'm sorry I did that, and I'm going to try very hard not to do that again. Guilt is, I am a bad person. Well, that's a lie. You're also a good person. You don't just do, we need to have an honest self-assessment. We need to take responsibility when we screw up. We need to, and sometimes we don't even realize it. That's why that's why it's kind of nice sometimes when our friends mirror for us that you're not acting nice, so that you can make a change. But if you have no inner strength, inner wisdom about yourself, inner confidence, then you're going to be pushed and pulled by everybody else's opinion. Well, they're just some sardines just like you. You know, there's no reason to trust their opinion more than your own. Now, it might be in certain arenas, where I'm always extremely nervous in this situation. Can you help me, let me know if I'm acting like I'm, a fool? So,
I love that. It's almost like if we replace guilt with regret. In regret, there is responsibility.
Yep.
Or taking a positive action in the future.
Right.
In guilt, you are just pushed down.
Well, in guilt, you're saying you can't change.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it depends on the definition. I mean, not everybody feels that way about the word guilt, but it often in our culture says, I can't change. And I feel bad about that, but I can't change. So it's an excuse to be lazy. I mean, it's just like you're giving yourself permission not to try to change, and we all are capable of change. What's good about observing your mind is learning that you can choose how to change. It's like, oh, I don't like this habit. It's not serving me very well. I think I'll change that, It's a process, of course. And this is why we need to not be grasping after a particular outcome or a time frame. Some things, we might work on our whole lives and we don't make a whole lot of progress. And other things we work on and we make a whole lot of progress. And that's okay. This is why we need a succession of good reapers. More time. But the more we are tight about it, and the more that we are, harsh about our opinion of ourselves, harsh with our opinions of others, the less progress we'll make. Because that's just stifling. Yeah.
Self-deprecating, if it gets in your way, maybe you can take inspiration from somebody else. Like my uncle Thomas Edison, developing the light bulb, they said, "Oh, you failed." No, I've just learned 900 ways why it doesn't work.
Right. And that's how, what was it? Google X. Was it Google X? Somebody had a company for a while, and their whole thing was try whatever it is you want to try. Let's see what doesn't work. So it was a very interesting podcast. I used to do it when I walked in the pool. I need to get back to that. So, yep. Did you have a question? Okay. All right. So the process is noticing. Like when you real, like even if it went after the fact, say you lose your temper with someone. Pause, apologize, but look back on what happened, what just happened. Did I notice anything before? Was I tense? Was my shoulders up into my ears? Was I feeling, nauseous or something, and just, all our little clues that we're not happy, that we're vulnerable when we're in that state to doing something that we're going to regret. So we want to catch it earlier and earlier and earlier and respond with doing nothing. Until we make some changes, till we come up with some strategies to do something differently, mostly we have to do nothing. You just pause and go, okay, I don't have to say anything right away. I don't have, slow it down. Also reflect when you're just thinking back about the week or whatever, about how things could go differently so that you can come up with some ways. I wish I'd been more relaxed listening to their criticism and not think that I'm a terrible person just because they have some criticisms. They're trying to make my work better, So we have to look carefully at what it is. What button is being pressed when we get anxious or angry or impatient or stingy. There's some button being pressed. Because we have the ability to be generous and patient and relaxed. It's just, we have all this stuff going on in our minds that we have habituated ourselves to reacting in a certain way when a certain button gets pressed. And it doesn't work to our advantage. It is not actually protective. But we think we can't help it. And it'll be a long time before it doesn't arise at all. But we can help how we respond. And then you can develop a real sense of humor about it. Because you'll hear those thoughts like, oh yeah, I shouldn't be happy here because they're suffering there. And you can kind of go, oh yeah, that makes sense. So it's having a sense of humor is really helpful, because we're really funny. When you watch yourself think and you kind of go, oh, that's the most ridiculous story I've ever heard. Yeah.
Am I the only one that laughs at the things that I think all day long?
Yeah, no.
Myself
all day long.
Because
Yes.
the thoughts that come into my head, I'm like, this should be a soap opera.
Yeah. I get very disappointed how often no one's around when I do something really illogical. It's just like, really? You really thought that was going to work out? Okay, so better to be a source of amusement for yourself than a source of suffering. And we need to lighten up, because we are not Buddhists yet. We're not going to do everything perfect. We don't have the information we need to be able to do everything exactly what the moment needs, what others need. We can't do it. Yep.
When you talk about rejoice, I find it, I have to really work on giving myself credit.
Yes.
For observing and doing everything you're talking about.
My
when
recommendation.
I do
it. Okay, so my recommendation is every day you at least start with an intention. What do I want out of this day? How do I want to behave? Oh, I'm going to really try to be patient today with the people I interact with. Oh, because that's my go-tos. So whatever it is. And then at the end of the day, it's really important to kind of look back at your day. How'd you do? And you want to notice your mistakes and regret them and go, okay, I'm going to work on that a little harder. But then you want to notice every little thing that is part of the process of changing it, like noticing you did it. That's a big part. So you want to rejoice in that. So the last thing you want to do is rejoicing about the good stuff. And if you have to put a thing on your phone calendar that beeps at you at 10:37 at night to do it, do it. You are worth it. Taking care of your mind is worth it. Taking care of your heart is worth it. We don't need to just take care of our bodies. We need to take care of our minds, because it's so much easier to get up the next day if we're not feeling like, oh, yesterday was terrible. I was a terrible person, da, 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 And so we really have to work at developing a habit of being happy and, about every step we're making in the direction we want to go. So everything you did, the things that you didn't even have to work on, you already have the habit of being generous or helpful or kind. Remember that at the end of the day. Oh, yeah, I'm good at that. This is good. So, we make a few mistakes, but we also do all sorts of great things for each other. Or at least, or restrain ourselves from being mean or hurtful or, snobby or, I don't know, judgmental. And it just helps to be able to recognize when you're doing it, like if you have a tendency towards being judgmental towards others as well as yourself, but of others, to realize, oh, I'd just be thrilled to hear what they're thinking about me. It's just a waste of time. All right. So another aspect of equanimity is this understanding that everybody's in the same boat. You know, everybody wants to be free of suffering. Everybody wants more happiness. You know, everybody wants to feel safe. They want their loved ones to be safe, happy, free of suffering. We're the same in this way. And then when people treat us poorly, they're no different than when we treat others poorly. They're struggling with the same stuff and the same mistaken ideas. You know, they think from, you know, being powerful is a way to happiness, or, you know, being able to show that they're smarter than, you know, is a way towards happiness. And, you know, whatever it is, or they're suffering, or they're just thinking about something else that's happening that's just, you know, and they're miserable. They're worried. Because we're just not different in, you know, in really profound ways. So cutting each other slack is very helpful. You know, and not taking it personally. You know, they're not doing this to you. You know, they're responding or reacting from, you know, from within. So the more familiar we get with our within, the more we understand each other. We all tired now? How you doing back there?
That's right.
It's still there. I know, usually it goes away. You know, I'll start teaching and it goes away because it has nothing to do with anxiety. You know, but we did a practice day yesterday, so we were sitting like this for 6 hours. So my neck's tired because I don't have good posture. So it's my own fault. Anyway, okay. Let's do prayers. So first, let's do announcements. That's probably smarter order of things. So what's this week?
Let me see if I can find it. I do find it.
Oh, so now we see all sorts of reasons why we're having problems. Please wait. So many opportunities for patience. Okay, so this week. All right, so I continue teaching on a sort of overview of the whole path on Monday nights. Venerable Tendron will be back on Zoom, and you can also come here to watch on Zoom together. And then they're doing Heart Sutra for Wednesday is the Tibetan New Year called Losar. It's also the beginning of the Days of Miracles, which end 2 weeks later, I think. And on that day, there'll be a Shakyamuni Buddha puja, I think. So, and then Sunday I'll be back. So that's what I know. So,
are these all in person and virtually?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. So
Tuesday night.
So if you can't drive at night, join us anyway.
Tuesday night.
Online, right?
No, I'll be
Oh,
here.
yeah,
No,
but you can still come here.
I'll be here watching it.
Yeah, if you get, some people like the community of gathering, and then they can also, you know, chat with each other. So it's just, you know, what?
I have an announcement.
Okay.
Okay. The center is collecting donations for about a month for the Guatemalan Mayo Center in Lake Worth. And there are specific items that are requested. I'll give you some examples.
Could you repeat what it's for? I couldn't quite.
Oh, it's for the Guatemalan Maya community in Lake Worth.
Okay.
Is that a community of people or a place itself, physical place?
It is a physical place and it is a community of people.
You can go visit there? Sorry.
Probably.
Okay.
Okay, food like bagged beans, pasta, cooking oil, tuna, tomato sauce, white rice, canned corn, or any veggie. For children, diapers are needed, new and used. Children and infant clothing. And for adults, sunscreen, cooling towels, umbrellas, salt tablets, and instant cold packs. I have flyers, so on your way out, I can hand you a flyer so you have the complete information. Ready?
Okay.
Do we bring
Wonderful.
it here, by the way?
Yes. Yeah,
And
we'll
then
be
she'll bring it.
collecting it over there.
Thank you.
Good question. We haven't done our prayers yet, have we? Okay. I am sad. Okay.
And
Yeah.
we all said yes.
Yeah, I would laugh. You know? So, all right. Having fun now. Oops, that's too big. Okay.
Right.
Now, what we're doing here is we're joicing all the positive efforts we've made this morning, and then that's going to lead to positive results, and we want to share it with everybody else. So that's what the meaning of this is. May all beings everywhere plagued by sufferings of body and mind obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. No creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid of a little, or mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. Just this top paragraph. Because of all the merits of the retreat times created by me and all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and other sentient beings, may there be no wars, famines, disease, quarreling, fighting, or unhappy minds. May there be great prosperity, and may everything needed be easily obtained. May all the human beings in the world be guided by spiritual leaders teaching only Dharma, and may everyone enjoy the happiness of Dharma. Let me point out that Dharma in this context just means anything that leads out of suffering.
Okay.
It doesn't mean it has to be Buddhist. That's just, so just want to clarify. Then for the long life of His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, in the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Shinrei Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. And for the swift return of Lama Zopa Rinpoche. Okay. Fearless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, victorious Losam father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands. Please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing the prayer here and now, holding and spreading the message of complete teachings through explanation and practice. You wore the armor of patience that's never discouraged. Incomparable Venerable Guru, to you I make request.
I think we're going to
Teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and for mother living beings. You suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples.